Well, from the presidential election to the Black Lives Matter movement, it's been an emotional year on the national level. And this morning we continue our year-end series with your elected leaders. And this morning Congressman Steve Cohen is with us in the studio. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Well, I thought I was going to say good morning, Mary Beth.
Not so.
Yeah.
It has been a crazy year. And I know they're talking about the inauguration. It's less than a month away, and it's going to be one of the most challenging in history, they're saying, and they're beefing up security. We've had all the protests after the election. What's your sense of what's going to happen that day?
Well, we'll have the inauguration. I'm sure there'll be a big crowd. There will be protests and demonstrations. A lot of people do not accept the results of the election because Hillary Clinton did get over about 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. And there's such a difference in the candidates, a difference in the philosophy, so there's still a lot of bad feelings. And the next day there's going to be a large march by, I think it's been called the Million Woman March, and there's a lot of women, including some from Memphis, who will be in to protest. So it'll be an active couple of days.
And Gloria Steinem is going to be leading that march that day.
She's a wonderful woman.
And so Trump has promised he's going to bring jobs back to the U.S., build that wall, beef up our defense. What do you predict is going to happen in the first 100 days? We now have a GOP-controlled Congress. What is your sense of what's going to happen?
I think, though, they will probably repeal the Affordable Care Act, which I think will be a mistake because there are a lot of people who voted for Trump who get health care through the Affordable Care Act and will find that they will potentially be without health care. The Republicans have been against it forever, but they've never had a plan to replace it. And you've got to have, it's harder to build something than to tear it down. So that's number one. Number two, they may have some programs they introduce to limit Social Security and limit Medicare and limit Medicaid. Those will be issues that I think will also be politically difficult because while they made those promises, they're not something that the public will like. The problem is, and it's your job and your colleagues, is to get the public to know the truth. We are in a post-truth world. There's been polls that have come out recently showing that over half of the people who supported Trump believe that Pizzagate story, that the emails of Hillary Clinton contained information about some child sex ring. I mean, it's just ludicrous stuff that gets out there, and it's on these iPods, and people see it and they believe it. We've got to let people know the truth. And if people are shocked that Goldman Sachs is going to be in charge of our economy. People voted for Donald Trump because they were against Wall Street and Goldman Sachs, and they put them out of their homes with the recession, the Great Recession. So there's going to be a real importance to having this. Colbert was truthiness. We're beyond truthiness. I mean, we're a long way from. I did cut down the cherry tree, and I cannot tell a lie.
And there was a lot of discussion before the elections of the gridlock in Washington. Now we have a GOP-controlled Congress and a GOP in the White House. Are things going to get done? What are you sensing is going to happen?
I think things will get done, but I think we may rue what gets done. I do think there's some areas we can work together, and a good infrastructure plan is something we've been pushing as Democrats, and we had resistance from President Obama and from Republicans on the spending side since 2010. I remember Chairman Oberstar, who was chairman of Transportation. We tried to get a robust transportation infrastructure bill, and we need it in Memphis. Our transportation center, so roads and bridges and port activities and even airports. We need a major influx. The issue will be how do we fund it. There might be some other areas of common concern, but there will not be common agreement on cutting Social Security. The Democrats will be against that. We'll be against cutting Medicaid, Medicare, and we will be against repealing the Affordable Care Act. Now, the public option is something we should have had in the Affordable Care Act. We didn't get it. I noticed in a little semi-press conference that President-elect Trump had yesterday, one of the reporters asked him about a public option, and he didn't seem to have a clue what it was. So we're going into a very difficult period, and there will be some efforts, in foreign policy where there are dominoes, and you do one thing and something else happens. And I don't think that our president-elect has a multi-dimensional perspective, and so that's a danger to our country and to the world.
Okay. Thanks so much, Steve Cohen, for joining us this morning.
Nice to be with you.
Thanks for being with us here in the studio.